There we go. What a news update. Absolutely loads of really interesting information there. I mean, longer school days. Where do we stand on that one? I know that's been covered a few times or will be covered in upcoming Teacher Talk radio shows. Interesting one. Not sure where I stand on that argument. Completely agree. We should be punishing people. But there we go. Let's not look at that argument today. Today we're looking at all about creativity in the classroom. How are you doing it? How are you bringing your lessons to life? And why? Why is it important? And what does creativity mean to you? I'm just throwing out the questions. All the questions I want to know on this Wednesday morning in half term. Normally, I'd be saying, resting, not doing too much work, enjoying the holidays, enjoying the sunshine, which is the main thing. But let's talk creativity in the classrooms. And I've been asking people on Twitter, what have you done to make your lessons more creative? So let's have a look at a few more of the responses that you have all given us on our at Happy to Teach One, who had this fantastic quote here that they've put and said, which was, listen more to what the pupils want. Make the journey our journey, not my planned journey. Children are so much more creative than us adults. They see no ceiling, and that's what education should be all about. Really, really enjoy that. What a great response. Morning, HB_history, who's joining us live as well in the chat. Thank you very much for commenting and being with us this morning, because I know it's difficult to get up and awake. I felt that this morning. Really, really great. These are some other examples of some creativity that people have brought into their classroom. Number one, my kids are, this was from, at Hillary Channel _ number one, my kids are really into comics / graphic novels. So I made my lesson in that style. I had characters, a mini storyline, and challenges too. Lol, it was a lot of fun. And number two, TikTok maths. I don't think I've ever seen those three words in the same sentence before. TikTok and then maths. But here we go, TikTok maths. Instead of me teaching key concept, I show a TikTok video reviewing the concept and go from there. Oh, okay. And you know what? I think it's really, really great. I think absolutely utilizing social media, utilizing what we've got around us, all of those main things that our kids use every day. And also means, like, particularly on, I think it's all worked on algorithm. I can't pronounce that word. Oh my goodness. Algorithms. That's the word. Algorithms. I think TikTok is all set up on that. You can tell it's half term. My brain's still not awake. Algorithms. And I think if you can start to show them that and they watch it, they're gonna be exposed to those channels. Really, really great. Love that as a concept. At Jemery Craft said, wing it. It's their idea of freedom. Really great. Wing it. I find I enjoy the freedom and inevitably more spontaneous and probably more responsive. Playing it by ear can inject some much needed perspective for a tired scheme of work. Really, really great. I'm really enjoying some of these fantastic responses that people are giving us. So thank you so much for that. Remember, you can get involved by calling in, by commenting live on the Podbean app. And we have got a caller in, which I'm just going to allow into the studio to find out what their response is. And good morning, Tom. Thank you for joining us, Tom. So let's just join them in. But yeah, let us know what you've done to be creative in the classroom. There's absolutely loads of really great examples on this. And I'm going to share a few things that I've done with my teaching as well to be creative. And I think I'd always say to people, you remember, those are lessons you remember. We don't remember every single lesson at school. That's impossible. But we do remember the ones that made an impact or made a difference to us. And I always say to people, what can you do that's going to make your lesson stand out and be that rememberable one for the positive? We don't want to be that negative remembrance lesson. At Little Lee Maria said this: interactive drama and storytelling, the story of Guy Fawkes, my year ones. Did it for years, went down so well. Really great. I remember being in primary school and we had these, being a little bit biased as a drama teacher myself, but, always going to big up the drama side of things. But I remember we were in school and I think must have been like year 4, I think, or let's say year 4 roughly. And we had come into school. In fact, actually, no, it was year 3 or 2. We had come into school this like World War I drama type performance things where they came in and the actors were there and they were straight away performing, and we were all had to pretend to be in air raid shelters or bits like that, and it was so great the way they done it, so creative and so interesting. That it just really stood out, and I remember that experience so much, as we all do. So that's why we're looking at what creativity is and why it's important throughout this month. For those who've just joined, just tuned in, throughout the month on the Wednesday morning breakfast show, we are looking at creatives in the curriculum and why it's important. We've also got one here from at Physics Rocks Me. I mean, I'm always more impressed by these very impressive Twitter handle names. At Physics Rocks Me says, I make my lessons effective. Oh, not necessarily creative. A little bit controversial on this one here then. So I make my lessons effective, not necessarily creative. And I will always argue that I think you can do both. I think I understand that a lot of what we do has to be, in quotation marks, taught to the textbook. And you have to follow what we have to follow to be able to get the grades or the exam or follow the assessment. But I think that shouldn't stifle us. I think that should challenge us as educators to be creative and think outside the box and think how we can make this topic or this subject more engaging. I've seen so many amazing science and maths and English lessons, those sort of core subjects where people are having to tackle, quite difficult content that they know students aren't going to find very engaging, and they're having to be really creative about it. And I think that's important too. I think it's important for us to challenge ourselves and think, how can we think outside the box? So I would say you can be effective and also creative at the same time. I don't think you have to give a bit of choice over one or the other. And I think that's important to note, particularly as, creativity isn't just about getting up and doing something in colored pen or anything like that. Creativity can be so much more than that. It'd be like, your elements of storytelling or problem solving or getting people to talk to others around them rather than working on their own. Creativity can be so broad in that spectrum. And at LRL Secret, this is the secret teacher. Ooh, I like this. I love these secret head teacher accounts. I think they're great. This year, I made sure I had one small fun or random thing in every lesson, even if it was only 3 or 4 minutes, just to lighten the load, either online or in school. Great. Really, really love that. That idea of having just that one thing that you do in every, and again, that idea of challenging yourself. I think that's so important. Challenge yourself to be creative. Let's not forget, as I said right at the start of today's show, creativity, I believe is now the second or the third. It's in the top 5 at least. The top 5 skills, soft skills that employers are looking for is creative. We want to create creative students, and we're only going to do that if we are giving them the opportunities to be creative themselves. We do not live, as much as some people might want to, we do not live in a world where it is as simple as black and white, where everything is just yes or no, correct or wrong. It's not like that. So much of what we do every day in our jobs is being creative. I can think of so many occasions. And when I teach PSHE, So as well as being a drama teacher, I lead on PSHE. And when I teach PSHE and we talk about skill sets and we talk about creativity, I said, I give so many examples where I've had to be creative that day as a teacher. So, for example, we've had things such as, the fire alarm's gone off and suddenly my lesson's been disrupted. Right, I've got to think creatively about how I get everybody back on track. I can't just follow the set plan I had before. You walk into a classroom and there's less people or more people than you had planned. Or people complete the work really quickly. So even the small things like that is us having to think creatively. Wow, the words this morning, everybody. Creatively, on the spot about what we're going to do. And problem solving is a massive one that we all do every day. And I think COVID has taught us many things. And for many roles and jobs out there, it's taught us that we've all got to be creative in our approach. And we've seen that so much online. I mean, how we're going to be covering this in a later show this month. But gosh, let's talk about COVID for a moment and how people have been creative to that and the amazing things that teachers have had to do to respond to that. What did you do during COVID to be creative and be responsive? And change the way that you teach? It's really exciting. So let's look at some more examples that you've given me of what you have done to make your lessons more creative. We've got one here from @NeuroTeachers who said, teach outside more, use flip learning, loads of things. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the outdoors is, it's really exciting. Exciting, funny, I think, probably. I don't know about anybody else, but if ever you take your lesson outside, suddenly, oh my goodness, the students are so excited. But I teach secondary, but they're so excited. And they're like, oh, this is so cool. Da, 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 da. And all you're doing is you're taking them probably to the playground where they've, spent most of their time. They've all been there, or you're taken to a sheltered area or anything like that. Even though they go there every single day of their lives while they're at school. They still find it the most exciting thing when they can get to go to the outside. But again, it's being creative. It's making it memorable. It's making it, relevant to them. They relate to where you are. They understand. It just makes everything so much more interesting, particularly when it comes to subjects like maths. I'm not a maths person myself. Got my maths GCSE. Was very happy by that. Couldn't do it again. Apologies to any maths teachers listening. Was not a subject for me. But I know, lots of students really struggle with maths and lots of them don't see the point in it, particularly with science as well. I've got some of my form are always saying to me, they're year 9, they're like, sir, what's the point in this? When am I ever going to use this? I don't need to do it. And all the lovely things that I'm sure we've heard many students say to us. And I always say to them, I say, well, it's relevant in everything that we do. Look at the world around you. And I know the teachers who do it fantastically, I've always found, will think creatively about that topic and they will make it relatable. They will make it relevant to the students so that they understand and can work out why it's important. And that might be something as simple as, making the math problems or the sums all about shopping, or making a recipe or a TV show, or as we've seen on this person here, TikTok maths. Love that. I think let's all do TikTok maths. I'm going to try and find some TikTok drama now. If anyone knows any TikTok drama or TikTok PSHE teachers out there, let me know. I'm really intrigued by that. Or maybe I need to start my own. Maybe I need to start my own TikTok channel. Or we can have a Teachers Talk Radio TikTok channel. Don't know, Tom, if you're still listening. Maybe we should have a vote about that one. What do we think? Teachers Talk Radio TikTok. I think it'd be great. At Thane Mike saying, wish I could retweet some of the ones that are coming out. Absolutely. You can retweet everything that goes out. Have a look at these amazing responses as people are putting them through. At M_Dubs has said this, and again, interesting comment. Taken time off thinking about teaching during holidays and weekends. Really, really true. I always say, I struggle with switching off. I don't know about anybody else. When it comes to the holidays, I really struggle with switching off and actually remembering to have a break. And I always feel a little bit guilty when I do, but very true. Lots of people absolutely should be switching off, should be enjoying their lovely break, whatever you're doing, however you're spending it. And then at tweets_Mark said, my last 2 permanent roles, I was the only science teacher that did regular hands-on practicals and taught skills. I left graded as satisfactory with inadequate features to be replaced by outstanding teachers that did lots of past papers. I'm told the kids hated them. Again, I think it really goes back into that, and this is what we were exploring earlier. Being creative doesn't mean you have to sacrifice anything else, or doesn't mean that everything else has to kind of come second when it comes to past papers or exams or anything like that. And I think we can be creative and we can also be productive and effective, to tune into the argument that we had earlier. I don't think we have to pick one or the other. And I think that's really important. And I'm going to share some of the things that I've done to be creative within my subject and thinking outside the box, and what we can do. And I want to know, what do you think? How have you been creative in your classes, or what can we do to be creative as a school? Perhaps there are whole school things that you are doing to be creative. Remembering it's one of the most important areas of soft skills that employers are looking for. So we have the duty, I feel, to be doing our students right by offering the opportunities to be creative, particularly given everything that's happened in the world. If we think about the state of play when it comes to, people being indoors all the time, not being outdoors, not being able to be free, not being able to be children, I would go as far as to argue, so what can we be doing to make sure that we can really embed creativity in what we do? Before we go any further, though, and we start exploring that more and start looking at more of your ideas, which, of course, you can share via the Podbean Live app or on the Teachers Talk Radio at TT Radio 2021, I'm going to share with you now a short advertisement, which, to remind you, if you are interested in advertising on Teachers Talk Radio, you absolutely can be. Or if you are interested in joining us as a host, we are nearly at a full schedule, which is very exciting, because that means we've got shows nearly going on all the time. But if you would like to join us as a Teachers Talk Radio host, you can do so. Just reach out to us. You can go onto our radio website, ttradio.org, or, of course, you can reach and message us privately on Twitter as well, at TT Radio 2021.
Introducing Amanda Davey. Amanda is one of the first specialist teacher assessors for dyscalculia in the UK and offers dyscalculia tutoring and bespoke training for schools. With 26 years of teaching and tutoring experience in the UK, Amanda offers specialist online tuition focused on building confidence and developing skills. Amanda also offers online and face-to-face training on dyscalculia for educators, informing practitioners as to how to identify children that may have dyscalculia and how to support them in class. Find out more about Amanda and what she can offer you at www.amanda-davey-dyscalculia.co.uk.
Good morning. Today we are talking all about creativity in the classroom, and I hope you're having a wonderful morning wherever you are spending it. Great to see so many of you online getting involved with the show today. Really great to see a quote from Tom here saying, is there not a subject divide in how creativity in the classroom is perceived? Art subjects are more likely to embrace them than STEM, humanities, or somewhere in the middle. And I completely agree. And I'm fully aware that I am sitting here today on a lovely Wednesday, sunny morning in North London, as a drama teacher and a PSHE teacher, fully aware that drama in particular is a very creative subject. But I think, if anything, it just makes it easier for me, because naturally that's the way my brain works, that's the way my practice works, my pedagogy, all of those fantastic teacher-related words we love to throw out there, all of those things. That's how I've trained, I've trained in drama and theatre. My brain works that way. But I don't think when it comes to the subject that it's any different. I think there are always things we can do. We looked at a comment that someone just put on Twitter just now. We're looking at science, doing practicals, those elements of things. When we can, I'm well aware current restrictions in different schools and different places mean that we can't be as active as we perhaps would like, but even just demonstrating practicals is being creative. We're showing them what things are like in the real world. Humanities, I remember I love geography. I did geography at GCSE, really enjoyed it. Going on the field trips, going out, exploring, I can't remember what they're called, the little like metal gate things. I can't remember, they've got the little squares. They're like a 8x8 square or something, and you put them on the ground, and you had to count how many set leaves or things you found in each square. If anyone can remember that name, that would be very helpful. But those sort of things, going out there, those are things that I remember. I remember getting the meter, the ones that had a click. You could tell I'm not a science, maths, or any other teacher or geography teacher, apparently. We had to go around the playground, and we had to click. Every click was 1 meter, and you had to work out how many meters squared the playground was. And again, those are lessons that really stick out to me and that I remember. And obviously being creatively minded and how my mind worked, like being active, really enjoyed that. All of those things I think are really important. And I think sometimes, and I say it again, we need to challenge ourselves. And this was the question I put up, and the questions now on Twitter as well. We can be creative and we can also be productive. It's not just one or the other. I genuinely think that's really true, and what we can do. And very true. Tom just putting another question there. Tom challenged me this morning. You're making me think, Tom. Outrageous. What stood out, the creativity or the learning? Yeah. And again, I think it goes hand in hand. If you remember the creativity, what happened in that lesson, you naturally always remember the learning of it as well. Again, I remember having to make a TV news report for one of our pieces of homework. And if you think, you get hundreds between your time in education of being in reception all the way up to being, let's go all the way to, sixth form or even beyond that into university. If you can remember a handful of homework tasks and they were the homework tasks that were creative, then something went right in my mind. If you can remember the ones that stood out and you remember them because they were something different, you had to do something extra. I remember making a model house with my whole family to look at the Great Fire of London, which we were then going to burn them all. But I remember making it and being up till goodness know what time, because obviously I typically forgot and had to do it the night before. All of those things, but they stood out. And I remember a bit about what happened in the learning and the history, more so than I do any other lesson. Even if I can remember snippets of what that homework task or that lesson was about, that's more than I can remember about anything else. So really interesting points there. Where do you stand on this idea of being creative in a classroom? And I know full well that there will be some teachers and some senior leaders and educators who will say that, the best way is just sit kids down, give them a textbook, give them the exam. That's what they need to learn. And, you could argue, yeah, I guess so. That's probably, they do all need to learn is something from a textbook, but are they learning anything? Are they getting any wider skills, or are they just learning how to copy and paste in their mind from a book to the paper? Are you just really testing? Arguably, again, is exams all about memory rather than skill set? And I would always say that as a school, we have a duty as a school to teach our students more than just the curriculum. We are not there. Well, I'm not there, at least. There might be some people who are. I'm not there to turn up and regurgitate information from a book, from a practitioner, from a historian, whatever it might be, and say to the kids, right, remember this, done, see you later. No, that's what it's about. I want to teach my students the skills they need for the future, which, as we said, is creativity. That's what we're talking about today. And the whole of this month, creatives in the curriculum. Where do they stand? And we argue this point, any drama teachers, dance teachers, music teachers, any of you lot that are listening who are like me will know full well we are pros when it comes to arguing for our subject and talking about the importance of the arts. Many schools, quite amusingly, started cutting and getting rid of the arts in their subjects. In their schools. So they cut their drama hours, got rid of their dance departments, cut their music hours, whatever it might be, and then realized that actually they need to have them back. They there's such a cool and calling for creativity. But one of the things that I've been doing at the moment, and this morning I'm about to go over there about midday today, I'm going over to one of the hospitals in Charing Cross, and we are doing a really exciting project where we are working with patients on a dialysis ward, which is to do with kidneys. We are working on the dialysis ward with also elderly patients, and we are getting our students to create pieces of drama and performance with them, our year nines. So once a fortnight, they go live to a patient in the ward. They have a tablet, a screen. I've spoken about this previously on one of my first ever Teach Talk Radio with Dr. Nicola Abraham from the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in partnership with the NHS, who's running this project with me, and the incredible dementia care team and dialysis ward team at the hospital. And they are going live to the patients via a iPad on screen. One in school, they use our laptop in school. They have an iPad on the wards, and they get to meet their patients, and they get to talk to them, and they find out about their lives, and they find about, what their interests were, all of those things, all of those exciting things that happened in their life. They're then going to take them and they're going to create them into a piece of drama. So they're calling them, about 3 or 4 times over this term, and then they're going to take those words and stories and favorite songs and all of those things they've done, and they are going to put them into a performance. And some people might sit here thinking, what's the point in that? Or, oh, that's a really nice project. Oh, blessed, working with the NHS, doing really great stuff. That's not what it's about. That's a small factor of what it's about. Of course, working with the incredible staff team of nurses and the wonderful patients at the wards is amazing. But actually, it's about thinking creatively about what I can offer in my curriculum. I can, of course, just be teaching to the book. I can, of course, just be thinking, right, okay, they're going to be doing GCSE drama next year. Let's do an extra year of this and start practicing all their writing and things like that. But I don't think that's as important as making sure that we are offering a creatively enriched curriculum full of opportunities, whether that's from opportunities to learn new things and learn new skills from that project alone. They're working intergenerationally, they're working across ages, they're working across genders, they're meeting people they would never normally meet. So much is happening in that project, and it's amazing to see these kids who, even the ones which you would worry about talking live to patients are excited to be talking live. They're excited to meet, as they call them, my old person or my patient. They have ownership over that, and they are going to remember this experience and those lessons for a long time. And I'd like to go back to a comment that Tom put on the Podbeam Live app. Remember, of course, anyone can get involved with the chat this morning via Twitter at TT Radio 2021, or of course, live on our Podbeam Live app. And feel free to comment or indeed call in if you wish to. And Tom earlier said, what stood out, the creativity or the learning? And that was a really interesting point. And I go back to that one because that had stuck out a little bit in my head. What did stand out in all of these things? But again, I will always say, I think it's so important. We remember the creative moments, and naturally by remembering those moments, you remember some of the learning that took place. Okay, I'm going to be very honest. Maybe we don't remember everything about the learning, but we remember more than we perhaps did or ever would have if we were just sat down. But what do you think? Let me know via the Podbeam Live app or call in. Let us know, what are your thoughts when it comes to creativity, and what have you done in your classrooms to make it creative? I remind you as well that today we've got fantastic shows happening throughout the day. And also, very excitingly, you will notice now we now go live, which is, I just realized it's happened as well. We go live on Twitter as we go. I've just retweeted myself. Am I allowed to retweet? I don't know. I've done it anyway. We now go live on Teachers Talk Radio, on the Twitter, on the Facebook. So even if you're not joining in on the Podbeam Live app, so if you're listening to this back on all the various platforms, whether it's our website, Podbeam Live app, Spotify, etc., all of those wonderful things, you can actually watch us live now on our Facebook pages or our Twitter pages, which is very, very cool. So feel free to share the conversation, share the wonderful retweets that are happening. I got so distracted. I was actually going to talk about what else is coming up today, but then I forgot. And I was like, oh, I'm live. This is very exciting. So this is, you know what? I love these Wednesday mornings because I just sit here chatting away to myself, having a great time. I hope you are all having a wonderful time wherever you are listening in as well. But the rest of today, we've got some really great shows coming up. I'm just having a look at what we've got coming up, which of course you can do as well by going onto Twitter or the Facebook. We've got the breakfast show with me at 7 to 8:30. So hopefully you've all tuned into that one. We've got the Twilight Show with Freya, 6 to 7:30 p.m. We've got the Late Show with Noreen at 8 to 9:30 p.m. We've got the Late Show with Chris at 10 to 11:30. So you don't have to be anywhere else apart from live watching, listening to us. Very exciting. Today, we are talking about creativity, and to remind you of the other amazing things we've got coming up the rest of this month. We are looking at next week, we're looking at the purpose of the creative arts in the curriculum. We'll also be looking at COVID and the impact on the arts, the highs and lows of putting on a show, and also looking at careers and the arts, where I'm really excited to be joined by so many amazing people. To name a few, again, that we're going to be joined by throughout this month. At Edward is Awesome, Believe Miss T, Miss N. McColdick, Shaz Drama, Dance Marts, Robinsons, Mini Big Mac. What a great name that is, Mini Big Mac. So much is happening. You're going to be joined by so many people. So make sure you tune in for that one and find out more about creatives in the curriculum across it all.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. New research from the London School of Economics has shown that children born in the summer are being mislabeled as having special educational needs by their primary schools. Using census records for over 6 million children who were in state primary schools over the years 2008 to 2018, Dr. Tammy Campbell found that among children reaching Year 6 in 2018, 16% of autumn-born girls had been attributed SEND support at some point during primary school, compared to 26% of summer-born girls. Similarly, 28% of autumn-born boys were given support, compared to 40% of those born in the summer. Dr. Campbell stated that the study shows how rigid prescriptive expectations not suitable for relatively younger children result in many of these children being denoted with SEND. And then the system that has created these needs cannot or will not meet them. This is because inherently, by the same conditions through which it creates some SEND, it is configured not to serve the children it attributes. It is configured instead to denote children as sufficient, good, meeting standards, expected level, or deficient, not good, not meeting standards, not at the expected level. This, the evidence begins to suggest, may contribute to increasing numbers of children being forced from the mainstream system. Teachers and schools are spending increasing portions of time serving the needs of the centralized assessment and accountability system, delineating children according to its dictates, rather than working with individuals to ensure learning, progress, and inclusion. Teaching unions have criticised the government's plan to extend the school day, saying it could do more harm than good. The plan has been drawn up by Sir Kevin Collins, the government's Education Recovery Commissioner, and proposes a minimum 35-hour week and 100 hours of additional schooling. However, opposition from the Treasury could see the plan receive 10 times less funding than originally proposed, meaning the implementation of the proposal could fall short. Education spokespeople have been critical of the plan so far, with concerns over the impact on staff well-being and students feeling they are being punished for circumstances beyond their control. Criticism also centred on Ofsted's role in overseeing the rollouts of the extended school day. That was your daily education news briefing.
Oh, I do love this song. Every time I play it, you can probably hear my creaking in my chair because it's just me dancing along, bobbing along. And I hope you are all bobbing along and having a wonderful morning wherever you are. Absolutely, Sonia. Good vibes. That's what we're aiming for on a Wednesday morning. It's coming up to 10 to 8 now. And this is your Wednesday morning breakfast show with me, James Clarke. And we are talking all about creativity in the classroom. So what have you done to be creative in your classroom or in your school? Or do you think we shouldn't be creative and we should just be doing what we do as teachers and getting through the book that we need to get through? What do you think? Let me know. And remember, you can get in touch via the Podbeam Live app. You can get in touch via Twitter, Facebook, pretty much anything. Maybe even carry a pigeon. I don't know. I was going to say I'll send you my address, but that's probably not the best use of GDPR right there, is it? Remember, all this month on the Wednesday Morning Breakfast Show, we are looking at creatives in the curriculum, and we've got a fantastic schedule with some wonderful, wonderful guests throughout this month. And one of the comments here, which I really enjoyed, was from Siri Rush Hent, that said this in regards to how are you creative in your classroom, said, have children plan and teach lessons. I think that's a great idea, and it just reminded me of I think it was also a TV show, but I also know schools do this. If anyone's school listening or teacher doing this has ever done this, I would love to know more. Feel free to call in or comment and let me know your experiences. But there's been this whole thing before around, students taking over teachers for the day and becoming teachers for the day. And I remember one of the placement schools when I was starting out training did this. Unfortunately, I wasn't there when it happened, but they had teachers who took over being head teacher or being a head of department or a head of year, and they had to become the teacher for that day. And some of the teachers became students. I think this was on a TV show as well. And I just think that's really, really great. I mean, I also think, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what some of my students might make in terms of lessons. I don't know, but it's always quite interesting, particularly in drama, because we have lots of our students will always, they'll always act as you, or they kind of become you in their plays, or they become different teachers, and that's always really, really interesting. But what do you think? Creativity in the classroom, how do you do it? What have you been doing? We've got a caller coming in and hopefully joining us very soon. I think they're just connecting up. But while they're waiting to come in, remember, you can get your voice heard in lots of those ways. What have you done to be creative in your classroom? If you do want to call in at any point, you're welcome to. Do make sure, though, that it's always best being connected with headphones, just so we can hear you really clearly. Next week on the 9th, I'm going to be joined by Miss Edwards is Awesome and at Believe Missed. I believe, though, now we've got a caller in. Nana, can you hear us? Hello, can we hear you, Nana? Can you hear us? No problem. I think we just had a bit of a sound issue there. No worries to say. If you do want to join us, do make sure you do. Always best to make sure you're wearing your headphones with it. But next week on the 9th, we are joined by Miss Edward is Awesome and Believe Miss Tracy. We're looking at what purpose does creative art serve in the curriculum. We'll be asking that question live to you all as well next week, so make sure you get your voices heard ahead of that. But creativity in the classroom, what do we think? I remember when I started out training, teacher training, and it's really, I'm writing I'm writing for a book about this at the moment, about how we view age in education. And not to go off topic a little bit, but just related, bear with me, I promise. And as part of this chapter that I'm having to write for this book, we start looking at, age discrimination and what we do. And I remember starting out, and everybody always said, and still says the same things to me now, of, you only do what you do because you're young. You only think creativity, or you only do all these active things because you're young and you're new, but you wait until you've been in education 10 years or whatever, 5 years, and you won't be doing any of these things anymore. Which is really negative. I think we, as a profession, suck out a lot of creativity from our own profession and our own employees and people around us at really young into our careers, because we make it feel like it's a negative thing to be creative, or that, thinking outside the box, or having a really interactive lesson, or getting people running around the classroom, or whatever it might be. I've heard lots of times people go, oh, we've been doing that for years, like, it's not all about that, and students are missing out on their learning and all of these things. I think we're really negative towards students when it comes to that, and I don't think we ourselves, other teachers, when it comes to that. And I remember starting out, and I had all these ideas, and some people would turn around to me and they'd go, yeah, James, this is great, but it's this isn't sustainable. You won't be able to keep this up. You won't be able to do this. And it's like, wow, bam, straight away you're hit with the negatives. Rather than celebrating what people are doing, or being creative, thinking outside the box, it's all about, yeah, that's great, but and I get it, teacher burnout, well-being, really important to look after ourselves. But also, we should also be celebrating and trying to think outside the box, celebrate teachers who are different and trying new things. And I've learned some of the best practices from watching other teachers and what they do, going to a science lesson. And again, never thought of this until I saw a teacher do it. Getting the kids to write on the tables with whiteboard pens, and that be their kind of giant whiteboard while they're working out some chemical sums of some form, newtons, atoms. I told you, not a science teacher, but they were working all of that out, and I thought that was really great. That is creativity. That's thinking outside the box, thinking differently, being responsive, getting students to write onto the tables, and that's something they remember. They love it because they're used to being told off for writing anything on the tables and graffiti and all of those things, that actually they're so excited by it. And I think that's an excellent example of how we can embed creativity into our curriculum. Some of the other great ways that I've seen people do is, lots of matching exercises, moving things around, getting people up, making students the expert. I saw this in a psychology lesson in our school. One of our teacher practitioners was sharing it, and there was A-level psychology, and they basically each had to take a topic each, and one of them became the expert. And then they're kind of sharing that with the other students in a presentation, but they've got like 5 minutes to do it. So it's like a revision type task. I think that's really good. We had a comment here from @Seri Rush Hent that said, have children plan and teach the lessons, make the students the expert, make them the experts in the room. Lots of activity happening on Twitter as well. Really great to see. One of the questions I put up here earlier today is, what do we think about the idea of a Teachers Talk Radio TikTok? I think we need to go wild with it. Continuing music, lots of music going on in my show. I do like a good bit of music. You can't go wrong with it. So what do you think then? Creativity, all of those things that we're talking about in the curriculum today and in the lessons today. Some of the other great practices, that I've seen is just making your lessons, particularly, we all know in our lessons, the ones that are a little bit more dull. Okay. I'm even as a drama teacher, I know, shocking. I think we can all put our hands up. If there's any teacher that's ever listening to this who can hand on heart say that everything in their whole curriculum is the best thing in the world, and there are no boring elements in their subject whatsoever, I would challenge that. If anyone thinks that every single aspect and part of their subject is thrilling and wonderful and students love everything about the subject, we know there are parts in all of our areas that aren't quite as engaging. So what do we do to make them engaging? That's what being creative is. I know with us for drama, lots of the students really find the writing side of it the least enjoyable. I absolutely know that. So I have two options being a teacher, as we all do. Do you just go, well, tough, get over it. Here's a written work. Here's a question. Here's what you need to do. Go, done. Or do I try and think more creatively about what I can do and get my students to be more creative in response to that? Some of the things I've done is I didn't realize, again, every school's different. And I know this is not always a way of working that people like, but we've done sort of teams, breaking down answers in teams, and they have the little whiteboards on their tables, and they have to work as a team to work out what they need to answer in that question the quickest against others in the classroom. And that just gets them thinking. Of course, you're going to eventually have to do the writing. You're going to have to do the essay. You're going to have to answer the 10, 50 mark question, however many marks it might be. But actually, what can we do before that to start to really engage them in understanding what it's about? Because if we didn't teach these methods, and this is the other side of it, and I'm sitting here today, not as a doctor or any of those things, but I'm sitting here today as a teacher and as an educator, and as like everybody else that listens, somebody who's gone through school myself. By being creative in the methods that we teach our students, in turn, we are helping them to be creative in the way that they will go on to this world to revise as well and learn your subject. If all we did in our subjects as teachers was to sit and copy and write things out and read you, and that's the only method of learning we ever gave them, well, that's the only way that they're going to think they have to learn. So therefore, that's the only way they're going to revise, which for some of them, might be helpful. But actually, we also know that the real world's not like that. Again, I go back to this point I've raised about 2 or 3 times this morning. Creativity is one of the second or third highest skill set, soft skills that employers are looking for. They want people who can think creatively. And I think that's really important. Is the methods that we teach them in school are the methods that they will go on to use for the rest of their lives, which is petrifying. Whenever I think about this, and I remember when I started out teaching, I was in front of this class at 21. I'm 24 now, so even being that age now, I sort of stand there and I go saying these things, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you genuinely have a massive impact. And that's how petrifying is that? I don't know if anybody else ever feels that. You feel like, oh goodness, the pressure to get things right. Some great things coming in on the Podbeam Live app chat. Thank you very much to Mal, who said, at Options Assembly, I start by saying, if you don't like reading or writing, don't choose history. Sonia said, creativity is really important for innovation in business. Mal coming back saying there are different ways of being creative, but there seems to be a huge emphasis on creative writing. Yeah, really interesting, that point there about creative writing. And also, absolutely right, Sonia, creativity is so important in the innovation of business, and particularly given what we've all faced with COVID. We look at some of the top businesses that have emerged from lockdown. I mean, people making millions upon millions of pounds. And it's because they've taken a situation and they've been really creative with what they can do within that, what's the restraints that they found themselves with. And they've gone out and they've thought outside the box. And that's what we're teaching our students, is to look at a situation. Don't find the problems. It's always easy to find the problems. Always easy to spot your own downfalls. Always easy to spot other people's downfalls. Very hard to teach the positives and find. And there are always positives in any situation. I refuse to believe that no situation has no positives. Might not always be easy to find, but there'll be some positives there. And this comment here about, there are different ways of being creative, but there seems to be a huge emphasis on creative writing. Really, really true. And I think, that's what we've been exploring today, is a whole breadth of ways that teachers are being creative in their classrooms. From, as you put there, Mal, the creativity of creative writing, to using highlighters and colored pens. I love a mind map, really love a mind map. To those sort of elements of it, to getting up, to performing, to making students the experts and getting them to present back, to feedback. We've seen examples here as well where students are leading the class. They are the experts. Really, really interesting. I would love to see that. Mal saying she's queen of mind maps. I would love to see a mind map. I think now maybe, again, another idea, maybe we need to have a whole show dedicated to mind maps, and we can all show off our mind maps or our diaries. There we go. Any way that we could be creative. I remember as well, talking about diaries, one of the things that we did in drama is my favorite shop if anyone's ever got one, wherever they are, we have a tiger. I think it's called Flying Tiger now. I love a tiger shop. Honestly, best thing ever. It's like IKEA, but for like stationery and everything else. Perfect. And they had a sale going on. Love a sale. We love a stationery sale even more as teachers, I'm sure. Aside from all the furry big pens I bought, they also had these fantastic little diaries, books that you could buy, which were like 50p, I think. And these little, not half the size, I always forget the size of the papers. They're like a postcard size notebook. And I remember having that, and I brought loads of them, 50p each, really cheap. And I gave them to our students for their notes, and they were sparkly and gold, obviously. But I gave them for their notes so they could write into them for their rehearsal process and what they were doing for their play, and write all their notes and all those different things. And again, just be creative in what we do and how we offer things. Mal challenged me there saying she'd win hands down. Absolutely. I'm intrigued now. I need to see a picture for proof of these mind maps. Sonia's saying, as educators, it's important for us too. I get bored sometimes and miss creativity as I love it too. Yes to Flying Tiger. I think it is a 6 as well. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think if I like to do things, and I was talking earlier today and I shared what we've been doing in our schools with regarding working with the NHS as a project. I like to be challenged, and controversially, I know, I really enjoy teaching year 9. Really, as an age group and a year group, I am absolutely loving teaching my year 9s at the moment. And I love teaching year 7 as well. I'm really into my Key Stage 3, which again, some people are Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4, Key Stage 5. I teach right across from year 7 to year 13, but I do really enjoy teaching my year 9. And it's not to do with the students at all. I think a lot of the students are all great across the year groups. But the reason I love teaching year 9 at the moment is the freedom, the flexibility, the creativity, the freedom of choices that we have to do so much in that year group that I think is exciting. I think that really hits nail on the point there is actually, if we're bored, if we're not creative, if we're not feeling inspired, then I can guarantee you hands on heart that your students, do not feel inspired as well. Mal saying, used to love all years, didn't like when they made 2 years Key Stage 3. 2 year, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And again, 2 year Key Stage 3, 3 year, where do we stand on that one? So much happening here, but how are you being creative in your classrooms? That's the question we're exploring today. What do you think? Creativity in the classroom. Where do we stand? Get involved, tune in, talk it out, Teachers Talk Radio. Get involved via the Podbean Live app or through Facebook, Twitter, however you like. Or why don't you join us as a host? There are still gaps on our schedule and you could be sat here today. Well, not here because that would be at my house, which would be a little bit creepy, but you could be sat in your house or wherever you are delivering Teachers Talk Radio. And we have had thousands, tens of thousands of downloads. So thank you, everybody who's been tuning in and talking it out with us on Teachers Talk Radio. Someone there, going back to some points here. And I'm really sorry if you can hear in the background. You can probably hear our bins are being taken out. The joys of being at home still where the bins are coming. Mal saying it's difficult to be creative when you're trying to pack 3 years of content into 2 years, and Sonia's saying there don't think it's allowed to, and I think it's really true. I think there is across our curriculum this kind of stifling of creativity, and this is the whole point, that the whole of this month on Wednesday mornings we are talking creatives in the curriculum because it is so important. I'm going to mention more about this in future shows, but that absolutely horrific, awful campaign that was put out regarding retraining and the picture of the ballerina and she's a ballerina, but she could be an electrician or whatever. The awful post. I've tried to block it from my mind, and I just think that was so damaging and so awful for young people and for professionals in that industry to see and to feel like they shouldn't be creative. They shouldn't be doing what they do. And I think that was just an awful message that was sent out, because actually, what we should be celebrating is doing what's important to you and going and being creative and celebrating difference and celebrating diversity and celebrating all the wonderful skill sets that we have. And I will always say that to people, is do what makes you happy. So what do you think about that? Because as I said, the whole of this month we'll be looking at creatives in the curriculum. Next week we are looking at the purpose of the creative arts in the curriculum. 16th we're looking at COVID and the impact on the arts. 13th, the highs and lows of putting on a show, which is going to be a really funny show. Really excited for that. It's for those teachers who are listening who've never put on a school show, my goodness, have we got some stories to tell about that one. And then on the 30th, we've got careers in the arts and all the opportunities that we can offer. And I think that's really important to remember as well, thinking creatively about careers. I know lots of people who are doing absolutely amazing things in art, and they don't realize that actually what they're doing, they could go on and become a costume designer or a prop maker or set, all of these amazing creative skills that we should be encouraging our young people to do. Lots of comments coming through regarding that really poor advertisement that came out. Honestly, if you've not seen it, I highly would recommend looking at it, just out of disbelief, to be honest. Loads coming through. It's the constant battle between STEM and STEAM. 2-year Key Stage 3 still allowed. Ofsted not too fussed though, and that's driving schools changing. Not some wider on curriculum or pedagogical aim. Yeah, loads coming through regarding this idea about the 2-year, 3-year curriculum and how it works. I know in our school and a few schools that I know, we have the 3rd year, so year 9. We keep it as Key Stage 3, but it's a discovery, a trial discovery year. So they start to pick some options, but they drop some at the end of it as well, and what we can do to be creative in that moment. One of the things that I always have to be really creative with in my other role is looking after PSHE, personal, social, health, sometimes economic, or sometimes just education at the end there, and how you can be creative in a subject that's not assessed, because there is no assessment as such formally in PSHE in the same way that you have science or maths or history or English, all of those subjects. So how do you as well teach students about budgeting and finance and puberty and looking after your body and consent and all of those things in a way that's rememberable, not diluting or breaking down the message, but also it's going to have an impact and they're going to enjoy what they're learning, because you don't want people switching off during a lesson about consent because they go, oh, that's really boring, I couldn't be bothered to listen. But it's such an important topic they need to listen to and understand and learn at any age. So being creative in those subjects, I've had to think of so many different ways that we can do that. And there are, again, it makes you realize, and I think sometimes some teachers have commented on this today on the Podbean app and on the Twitter, it feels like a chore, or oh, it's so difficult, or I haven't got time to do it, or there's no time for this. Actually, there are so many incredible companies, resources out there for us to use as teachers. So do have a look. I found loads of great ones from obviously like the main, and obviously there are literally loads of organizations out there. So I'm just naming the ones at the top of my head. I use a lot from the PSHE Association or NSPCC or Childline or all of these fantastic charities, the NHS. Loads of places have incredible resources that are made and created for schools to use. And one of them that we've been using a lot of is Barclay's Life Skills. And if there are any maths teachers, economic teachers, IT teachers, PSHE teachers, any of those, really fantastic resources there. Games, we've played board game styles, which is basically like the game of life, or Payday. I used to play that version of it. Loads of great resources, and the kids absolutely love it and they remember it. I remember in school when I was in year, I think 8, we had BP come in, I think it was, and they ran a whole enterprise style game around petroleum and oil, but actually embedded into it was a lot around geography, and the environment, and all of these other elements were thrown into this challenge where you had to make the most money, which is essentially what it was. And I still remember that. Again, I still remember that X amount of years on. Yes, you know, I remember mainly the creativity, the fun side of it, the competition side of it. But actually, you know, there are parts of that I've now taken and I've used my own practice and I've still used years on. So incredible opportunities like that. And Mal saying teaching PSHE made me more creative when teaching history. And I do agree. I think, you know, we have to get taken out of our comfort zones. I always say to any PGCE, any new teacher that's coming in, go and watch your students in a drama classroom, in a PE lesson, in a dance class, in a music class, any lesson where they are up and being active. Go and see your students in those lessons. If you are struggling with a student engaging in your lessons and they're not engaging, go and see them in a practical subject and see what they're like there. Does that make a difference? Is their style of learning and their way of learning very different? You know, have a look at what they're doing. And I say, because you will learn so much more seeing a teacher teaching a different way. I remember when I go and teach into a classroom, I love it. Oh, I have a great, when they're behind desks, it's like, oh, this is wonderful. They're so quiet. They don't move. But of course, I love being active. Like, I know when teachers come and teach drama lessons or cover drama lessons, they hate it. Some of them, they dread it. If they know they've got cover and they've got a drama cover, that's it. They're running because they know that they're going to be up and they're going to be moving. But actually, I think it makes us such better teachers. Linking into that point there and linking into the point about being creative is go outside of your comfort zone. You know, go and find opportunities to learn new ways and be creative in your subject, because there is always something we can learn from everybody. I've learned a lot from humanities as a prime example that we're talking a lot about today, but I've learned a lot from humanities over my time, watching their lessons, sharing their practice. All of those things only makes us better teachers. It challenges us to change our thinking, to be more creative, which in turn challenges our students, because if we're challenging ourselves and we're excited by what we're doing, you can guarantee that the students are going to be excited as well. The fact that the creative arts industry brings in billions of revenue in the UK, absolutely right. So much money coming in from the creative industry. And, you know, it's what lots of students enjoy. And if I always say to them, do what makes you happy. But we're talking there a lot around, you know, challenging ourselves, going outside it. And someone said on one of the comments, and I go back to a comment that was made earlier on Twitter, you know, they challenged themselves once, at least once every lesson, to put in something creative. And I would challenge everybody to go and do that. Go and add one challenge, one creative element into your lessons. What is it going to be? It could be a drawing task. It could be a movement-based task when they're moving around the room. It could just be something as they come in and there's a puzzle that they've got to work out. Whatever it might be. Every Wednesday we have Wednesday Wellbeing in Wellbeing Wednesday in our school, and I create the resources every Wednesday, and it's one slide, and it's either a discussion topic, question, a puzzle, a quiz, something on one piece of one slide that they come in and it just gets them thinking and wakes up our brains and being creative. Discussions, you know, debates. That is creative learning. It's not just about creative writing and all of those things that we'd mentioned previously. There's so much to it, and you have given us so much. I can't get over how many wonderful comments you've been giving us on Facebook, on Twitter, regarding that. Just to say as well, a bit of a celebration. We have reached, which is very incredible, 80,000 podcast downloads and counting on Podbean. And on Podbean and our website, we've just reached our 200th subscriber, which is crazy, and which is really, really exciting. And as I say, you can be involved with all the fun of Teachers Talk Radio by getting involved and becoming a host, or you can advertise with us, or you can just continue to tune in every single day, which is also wonderful as well. And don't forget, we have a packed show for you today. So coming up at 6 to 7:30 p.m. is Freya with the Twilight Show. Then 8 to 9:30, we have the Late Show with Noreen. And 10 to 11:30, we have the Late Show with Chris as well. And throughout the rest of this week, so many shows happening all the time. I'm just looking through now, and some great guests and topics we've got coming up. This week on the Saturday Lunch Show, Tom Hopkins is going to be joined by a whole array of 4 different secondary trainee teachers. And they'll be looking back on their training as a teacher this year, and they'll be looking at what to expect as an ECT/NQT. Really great show, that one. Very excited for that. Just so many amazing things happening. I can't get through them all. But creativity in a curriculum. What do we think? Chris Vows is bringing back the wooden horse. Don't miss it. I don't know what that means, but that sounds very exciting. Chris will bring back the wooden horse. There we go. Tune in for that show. You don't want to miss that one. So very exciting. Thank you so much, everybody that's been tuning in throughout today on their half-term Wednesday. I hope you are having a lovely day, and I hope you are looking after yourselves. As I say, normally every Wednesday at school in the morning, we have our Wellbeing Wednesday, so I hope you are being kind to yourself. I hope you are taking some time to rest. I hope you're taking some time out and just spending some time with you, your family, your loved ones, whoever's there. Lovely tweet coming through. Thoroughly enjoying at Jam Clarke 96 while driving to work and getting ready for Year 10 rehearsal day. Definitely bobbing to the theme tune whilst driving. Says Miss Edward is awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Edward. And also, Miss Edward is joining me very excitingly on one of our shows next week. Oh, next week. It's coming up so soon. You'll be joining us, Miss Edwards, alongside Tracy as we talk about what purpose does the creative arts serve in the curriculum? Is it just taking up time for core subjects? That's the question I'm going to be asking everybody next week. Is, do you think, would we be better spent getting rid of or cutting the hours of drama, cutting the hours of music, cutting the hours of dance and art and all the creative subjects and making room for more of the core subjects? That's what we're thinking. We've talked a lot here about creating the curriculum, and I've talked a lot around in the classroom, but let's, for the last few minutes, look at the whole school. And I think it's always very interesting that every school I've always ever been to, or lots of schools that I've seen online, use their creative elements to sell their school. Whether it's from the sport or their school performances or their school shows. Arguably, again, love to hear your views on this. Creativity helps to sell your school. I don't know many schools that would advertise just pictures of everybody sat behind a desk reading from a textbook. I would say that no school would ever use that as an advertising technique. Even universities, the way that they sell their university or tell them to come to their university is they show you all their creative things that they do and opportunities, because we know that's what enriches the opportunity and the offer for our students. So what do you think about that? Creativity in your school, how do you do it? How do you embed it? And where is the importance of it? I think for lots of us at the moment, it's about, academics and the writing and all that. And that is important. That is really important. But I would also say, coming back from after lockdown, creativity has never been more important. It's never been a need for it as much as there is now. We are students coming back and they're doing incredibly well. I think I'm so proud of my students. I'm so proud of students up and down the country and their resilience and the way that they've responded. But we can't be naive to the fact that actually it has been really difficult. And those skills, teamwork, conversation, discussion, all of those elements, have been damaged, particularly for our students who, live on their own without any other siblings or people their age, or, whose parents or carers or people at home might be working, so they don't have as much interaction. Creativity has never been so important to re-energize and bring back those skills. Question here from Tom. Here's a question, James. How would you use the extra 30 minutes in the school day? Wow. Do you know what I would always say that I think the best time of any day and the most valuable use of any time is form time. Registration, you might call it in some schools, form time, registration, all of those things. I think so important that we use that time wisely, because let's be honest, the time you've done the register, you've done the positives or negatives or behavior points, whatever it is in your school, and you've given out some notices, that's pretty much your 15 minutes gone. You know, give or take however long you've got in the morning or the afternoon, if you have both, that's your time gone. Actually, 30 minutes as a form, discussion, debates, talking, you know, I think that's where we should be using that time, because those are the really important elements. You know, we talked about creativity being the top skills that employers look for. You know, that is what they want. Employers want to see creativity in the people they are going to employ. But actually, if we look at the employability skills that they look for, you know, you have to think, where are we teaching that? Where are we teaching them teamwork? Where are we teaching them to be social? I mean, let's have a look here at the top 13 skills that employers want in 2021. They want time management, decision making, creativity, resilience, emotional intelligence, collaboration, adaptability, change management, someone who's going to do continuous learning. Gosh, the list goes on. And I think that's where we have to think, actually, where are we doing that? Where are we learning? Where are we teaching them how to have a coaching mindset? You know, this is one of the top skills that now comes up. You know, where do we teach them all these things? And we don't do that if we are just sat in a classroom teaching from a book. That is where I stand on that one very strongly. Is education all about preparing for the workplace, though, or even mostly? Absolutely. You know, if we are not preparing young people for the future, for their future employment, for their future careers, for their future ambitions, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing as educators? What's the point in our role if we are just there to depart information or give them the facts? Well, that's great. We've given you facts, tick, job done. And, you know, there may be people who will say that that's fine. Yes, we are just there to give them the facts, give them the story, and they go and do what they want with it. But I think our role is much more than that. Our role, I wouldn't be here today if it was not for the opportunities, the encouragement, the offers that I was given in school through my education. And I'm sure lots of us would be the same with that as well. Education is about preparing for the workplace and the future generally, whatever that future might hold for that young person. And that's why, going back to it for that final point, creativity, that's what we want. You know, we've got to think creative about how we do that. You know, how do we prepare young people for the future, for their future careers, but also get them what they need to know and learn? You know, how do we make sure that they know their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s while also having ambitions for the future and going off to go to university or into work or an apprenticeship or whatever they decide to do? How do we do all that? And that's hard. And I think that's where the role of your head teachers and your senior leadership team come in, is how are they making sure that all of that happens in the workplace, in your schools, in your workplace for those young people. Wow. There we go. That's a bit of a light-hearted rant from me this morning, isn't it? Gosh, some people so sat there. Somebody coming in saying, you know, I understand that maths and English are vital. However, does that mean every other subject gets sidelined? Yes. And I mean, that's really what we're going to be exploring and challenging. And I will argue that point next week, particularly when we're looking at, even as a drama teacher, taking a non-biased view on this, is like, actually, well, you know, should we just be using the time for English and maths? We know our levels of English and maths are not as high as they should be compared to the rest of the world, because we love comparing. You know, everything's about statistics, everything's about comparing, everyone's about charts, all of those things, because obviously that's important, I guess. So does it mean that all the other subjects get signed? And that's what we're going to be exploring the whole of this month throughout Creatives in the Curriculum Month here on the Wednesday morning breakfast show, 7 to 8:30 every Wednesday. And let's see what else we've got coming up for the rest of this month, shall we? So the rest of this month, we've got coming up on the 9th. What's the purpose does the creative arts serve in the curriculum? Is it just taking up time for core subjects? On the 16th, we're looking at the COVID effect and how COVID has impacted your subjects. Before on the 23rd, we'll be looking at putting on a show, the ups, the downs, the results. On the 30th, we'll then be finishing up with looking at creatives in the arts, inspiring students. We'll be joined by so many amazing guests, and if you want to get involved and you've got a view to be heard, well, you can do that, and you can be live on air with me on a Wednesday morning. What a fantastic way to start your day. I think so. And you can do that by reaching out to us at TT Radio 2021 on Twitter, or I'd love to hear all of your amazing views and thoughts on that. We do have somebody who wants to call in, so we'll see if we've got a little bit of time towards the end of our lesson to call in for them. And some great comments coming in. English and maths have 45 lessons a week. History only had 2 lessons per week, yet they'll still take students out of humanities subjects to do extra English and maths, and we get better results. Yes, the focus on the curriculum. Where does that go? Yes, where's the time spent? Time is money. I think you can get a lot from bargaining time in schools. Thank you so much, everybody who's been tuning in. It's been absolutely amazing to hear all your amazing responses. As always, I hope you've had a wonderful day and with me. I really enjoy spending the morning with you. And the rest of the week, it's just some more coming in. Baffling, isn't it? If only us history teachers had more time. I hope you have a wonderful week, however you are spending the rest of your half term. Look after yourselves. Make sure you are being kind to each other and enjoying the sunshine, most importantly. Get out there, get some vitamin C in you and enjoy it. Have an amazing rest of it. And remember, I am back next Wednesday morning, 7 to 8:30. And we are going to be talking about some really exciting things and controversial things as we look at what purpose does the creative arts serve in the curriculum. Don't forget as well, you can get involved, you can comment, and make sure you watch out for the question which I will be asking everybody to respond to, which will be coming out on the Twitter for Teachers Talk Radio at TT Radio 2021, where I'll be asking you this very question ahead of our show, which is, what purpose does the creative arts serve in the curriculum? Is it just taking up time for the core subjects? That's what we want to know. You've been amazing. I've seen so many responses. Don't forget to tune in for the rest of the incredible shows. Wherever you are, stay safe and have a wonderful rest of the day. I've been James Clarke with your Wednesday morning breakfast show here on Teachers Talk Radio.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.